Shalom, everyone, and welcome to an extra special. I guess we're in Coffee and Connection, week 156. Here we are. It is, I guess, for many of you, Tu B'Av. I'm still in the Tu B'Av feeling somewhat. I was walking around today and seeing all the different things going on special today, and it really is a day we could talk a little bit about what's the energy of the day, and it really is a day where we kind of tune into our connection with Hashem. We tune into like being chosen by Hashem. It's a whole interesting idea. It's like 40 days before the creation of the world, and we are God's chosen people. We are his, destined. And so here we have a day that's all about connection. And, we know that our relationship with Hashem parallels our relationship with our husband, same like our relationship with our husband parallels our relationship with Hashem. And so it really is a great day to think about, how am I connecting with my husband? What's creating connection? What's getting in the way of connection? And also to start to think about, how am I connecting with Hashem? It may feel like, you know, it was just Rosh Hashanah like yesterday, but we're really not that far. Like it really is time to start thinking about our relationship with Hashem as well. Not that we're always thinking about it, but the time where we really dive into that area of our lives is coming up, right? And so it's something to think about, both of our relationship with our husbands, our relationship with Hashem, which all comes down together to like that question of, who am I being? What am I creating? That's what we're always about here in, what we're do in Absolutely Feminine, and all our Coffee and Connection episodes are really focused on. And I wanted specifically to talk to you about the different challenges that can come up when we think about connecting, right? We, over the last 3 weeks, over like the 3 weeks, we talked a lot about how to handle it when there are challenges. We wanted to really take some time to be real with the fact that we have challenges. We have challenges in our lives, we have challenges in our marriage, and we don't want to just like negate them. We don't want to just pretend they're not there. We have to actually deal with them. We talked about how being real with what those challenges are can actually give us the tools, the clarity, right? The steps to then deal with it. So, as I was, do it like really as we were going through those weeks, I was like, wow, like we really do have so many things that get in the way. There's really so many challenges that can come up and affect our relationship. And then that really does affect our relationship. It affects the experience we're having, and not just the experience we're going to have in our marriage, but the way, and we'll talk more about this, but the what we experience in our marriage also affects what we're experiencing in all other areas of our lives. There is this reality that it has this like either trickle effect or huge effect on how we feel, how we deal with things, how we parent, how we relate, how we feel about ourselves. And I was really thinking about how to really address this, how to really give you tools, how to make sure that you don't feel stuck in your challenges, right? Because, like we said, we want to acknowledge our challenges. We have to take time to remember that, like just like in the 3 weeks, we do take time to remember we're in Horban, to remember we're not in the ideal state, but not so that we can get stuck there, not so that then we can say, yeah, this is where we're at, and just like sit there and either be like total stuck in it and just spend every day crying. We have specific like time and periods to feel that, but also not to just be like, yeah, like kind of just go to, and I wouldn't even use the word acceptance because we use the word acceptance here in a different way, not to get to a place of like complacency, like that's the situation. And sometimes I hear that from women, both about the state of galut and the state about the galut of their own marriage. Like, I guess this is the way things are. I guess this is the way Hashem wants it to be. I guess this is what I have to be okay with. I guess, and like just waiting or feeling stuck in where they're at. But the idea of recognizing our challenges is meant to then give us clarity as to, okay, so what can I do about it? And I had some ideas. There was something that I was really thinking about and really wanted to kind of make an invitation for and offer all of you, because I have this like amazing little package that was created about a year and a half ago, and I wanted to kind of reoffer it with also you'll see some new like some new things. And I was really and actually over the 3 weeks I was re-listening to it to make sure like, what's really in it, what is it really for, what does it really address? And that's why I wanted to make sure that what I was offering is really going to make a difference for you. So that's why I sent out that email like, what are some of the challenges that you're having? And I was absolutely blown away, first of all, with such thanks and appreciation and a feeling of connection with all of you that so many women responded. It was so amazing to hear from all of you, to connect with all of you. Some of you I haven't received an email from in like 5 years or more. So it was great to know that you're still here and still connecting. And some of you were just so clear and succinct. You were also real and vulnerable. And it really, as I was reading through them, I was like, yes, this is going to be helpful. Yes, this is exactly what can make a difference. So like made me even more and more excited. But what I want to first make sure that we do is start by going through what some of those challenges were that I heard from you, so that you like whether you sent me your challenge or not, I want you to like to have clarity as to like what it is that we're addressing. What are some of the issues that I'm really talking about? And it's really a whole myriad of issues. It may sound like, wow, this is like a whole spectrum of challenges that can come up in marriage. And that's the thing. There are so many challenges that can come up and get in the way of connection, whether you're talking about physical connection, whether you're talking about emotional connection, whether, as some of you shared, you're talking about spiritual connection, whether it's being able to communicate or whether it's being able to work together. I want you to understand that really all so many of the challenges that come up can really come down to certain areas of our lives that we can work through, we can deal with, we can have learn tools on and be able to experience something completely different. So, let me share some of the different things that I heard so that you can see for yourself, like, whether or not this resonates, whether or not this is something that is something you can relate to. So many women express different concerns. I made some notes for myself. Many women express various concerns about what they feel is getting in the way of feeling connected. Common themes included a lack of physical and emotional intimacy, feelings of being unappreciated, feelings of being misunderstood. There were also concerns about financial and time pressures, unresolved past issues like traumas or things that they're still struggling to forgive their husbands for, and communication barriers, right? Issues of not being able to express yourself, not being able to feel heard, not feeling understood. There were also mentions of specific things that cause stress in our lives, like childcare, work schedules, personal insecurities, our own struggles with ourselves that can act as a barrier between ourselves and our husbands. A number of the responses that you gave highlighted the struggle with vulnerability and how difficult it is to share our feelings openly, right? Because especially when we're sharing with our husbands who are men and who are not coming from the same like emotional place as us, it can cause feelings of a fear of rejection. It can create negative. We can be met with negative responses from our husbands. Some people expressed feeling emotionally or physically neglected, right? That their husbands don't even seem to care about them or seem to be interested in connection. While others talked about external factors like children or finances or stress or trauma as the major barriers, the major obstacles. And definitely what I heard under a lot of the answers was resentment, unresolved emotional wounds, and also specific behaviors that cause frustration, right? Husbands being very involved in their work or in their phones or not contributing equally to the household things that are going on. Um, Some women express that they have different life priorities, different personality traits, different spiritual perspectives that are really creating these barriers. And really, what I saw overall from, we're talking at this point like 200 responses, was a huge spectrum of challenges in maintaining connection, from like day to day issues that can come up to really deep emotional struggles. And what I heard is that what really women are looking for in order to really create connection is to feel appreciation, understanding, intimacy, and communication, right? And that is really the, like I said, a broad spectrum of challenges. Do you relate to this? Is there anyone? Yes, also drinking. Thank you for that addition that somebody just put in. That can be another issue, right? There can be so many things that we see either our husbands doing or not doing. There could be things that are happening now. There could be things that happened in the past. There, whether in our relationship or outside of our relationship. It can be our own struggles with ourselves, our the own like the stuff we're just dealing with that makes us feel like I don't even have time or energy to try to connect to someone. Then there can also be the issues of like, I don't even know if I want to connect with you. And then there can also be the issue of, even when I try to connect with you, I just don't feel like it's worth it. Right. And then there's another issue, which I've heard, really like heard so much over the years, is like this feeling of like, well, I more see it as I'm speaking with women that, even when we're looking for a physical connection, that there's a lot of just like frustration with ourselves and with our husbands about what is and isn't happening in the bedroom. So I want to be clear that when I'm talking about connection here, I'm talking about all forms of connection. I'm talking about emotional connection, I'm talking about physical connection, and all of that is important. Spiritual connection, yes, wanting to feel, this is so important. This came up so many times in the responses as somebody is sharing here. I want to feel wanted without having to ask for it. And this is really like highlights so much of what I'm excited to share with you, because on the one hand, there's this issue of I want to feel wanted. I want to feel loved. I want to feel connected. I want to feel like there's something that I don't have to chase, something I don't have to make happen. And at the same time, there's also some beliefs that we may have about, you know, what that looks like, that can really stop us from being able to create the connection that we're looking for, right? And like there's certain ideas that can really be getting in our way. And so I'm saying this and smiling because this is something that like I deal with so often with my clients, and I want to be able to help more women dealing with, which is like we don't recognize how often the way we think about connecting, and the way we think about sex, and the way we think about our husbands, and the way we think about ourselves, and the way we think about what life should be, is that could actually be creating the exact barriers that we're trying so hard to overcome. And so when we talk about creating more connection, what I really am what I'm really passionate about is knowing that this is really it's like a what's the word that we look at? Like a holistic approach, right? Because look, we could just have like a call. We could just have one lesson on like how to have better sex, right? How to deal with all the things that are getting in the way of having a physical relationship. We could have a lesson on like how to have a good date with your husband. We could have conversations about how to see your husband in a different way. We could talk about how to not be so tired. Like we could talk about so many different things. But what's so important to understand is that not one having one of those calls on its own is likely not going to give you the results that you're looking for. And that's probably what put like a me in the chat if you've experienced this before, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna like I really want to have a better physical relationship, or I want to have more fun with my husband. I want to have more connection. I'm going to do something about it. So maybe you read a book or you listen to a class or you take a course or you set an intention like, okay, we're going to go on a date, or okay, I'm going to buy some lingerie, or I'm going to read this book, or whatever it is. And then you're like, this isn't, but like, it's not working because like you read the book, you bought the lingerie, you went on the date, and like, and you're all saying, there's a bunch of me's coming in here, and then you're like, wait a second, I like, I got the lingerie, I got all excited, and then, like, I just get into bed and I'm just like, "I'm too tired," or "I'm too resentful," or, "Oh my gosh, like, what are you doing?" or "Why isn't this working?" And then what happens is we think that we are broken, right? We think something's wrong with me, or we think something's wrong with my husband, or we think something's wrong with our marriage, right? We think like, "Oh my gosh, this is like there's nothing I could do. Like, there's just something wrong here. And that's when we get even more frustrated. We get even more resentful. We get even more upset. And, one of the biggest issues in connection in general, if you take that whole list I gave before, the underlying thing in all of that is stress. And what's the biggest problem is that stress creates stress, right? I always remember this one time that my son was when he was a baby, my older son, when he was a baby, he had like eczema on his face. And it was I was like trying to figure out what I was eating that was causing it and what to do about it. And I was like, trying to like narrow it down and figure it out. And I took him to some like holistic doctor to try to get some like clarity. And she looked at me and she goes, Hannah, are you stressed right now? I was like, am I stressed? You think the stress is causing the eczema? I'm stressed because of the eczema. I'm stressed because I don't know what to eat that isn't going to hurt my baby. Like, of course I'm stressed. So when we're stressed, that can create more stress, which then makes us more stressed, right? Which then makes the thing we're looking for, the thing we're trying to create, can become even more elusive. So if you're like, okay, we're going to go on a good date, we're going to have good sex, we're going to have a real conversation, and you're like dedicated to it. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter how dedicated you are to it, all the other stuff that's been coming up until now is going to come up. And then the question is, how do you deal with it? What do you do about it? And if all that's coming up, but you're like so dedicated, like, no, we're going to have a good time together. No, we're going to go out. No, we're going to be connected. No, I'm going to be nice today. No, we're going to feel good with each other. Then it's like, oh my gosh. So now I'm even more frustrated that it's not working, and the like letdown, and then you become more stressed, and that stress just continues to snowball, right? And create even more disconnection, right? So there's so much that can be going on here. There's so many challenges that we can have. And it's there's no that the question of what to do about it is really, we want to get curious with that. Like, what really is the answer to it? What's really going to make a difference? And like I said, what is important to realize is that it's not going to be a one piece of information that's going to make that difference, right? It's not just, well, you have to learn how to like let go. You have to learn how to enjoy. You have to learn how to listen. You have to know how to relax, whatever it is. Each one piece on its own is not necessarily going to give you the actual connection and answers that you're looking for. We need a holistic approach. We need something that is going to address all of these issues, right? So that you can really have the connection that you're looking for in the reality that there is a lot of stress, that there is a lot going on in your life, that there are things about your husband that you don't love, that there are things about yourself, about your life that challenge you, that you do have certain things that have happened in the past that have hurt you, with the fact that there are things that need to get talked about. You do need help. You do need to you do need to work together. There's so much that can really that is happening. And so we can't just ignore all of that, right? That's what we talked about the last 3 weeks. We can't just ignore all of that. we need to deal with it in a way that's going to be productive and bring us closer to where we want to go, right? And let's just take a second here to talk about why it's important to overcome these barriers. Like, could we just are we just being like romantics? Like, life is hard, life is challenging. We could get like realistic about like, marriage is a struggle. Like, we could just say all of those things. We could pretend none of them are problems. We could just say, I'm just going to, positive psychologize it or whatever the phrase is, or I'm just going to like I just have to accept that all of these issues are happening in my life. I have to just like trust it's all for the best. It's all from Hashem. The question is that what happens when we do all of that and we don't actually deal with the issues? We don't actually look for solutions. We don't actually overcome the barriers that are getting in the way. And I'm very particular about using that word barriers because very often when we come across these types of issues, we see them as walls. We see them as really getting in the way between me and the connection that I want, me and my husband, me and the type of person I want to be. And what I'm going to invite you to see it as is as a barrier, like a hurdle that we get to figure out how to jump over. We get to deal with it. So, why is it so important to overcome these barriers? Well, I want to talk about two really important reasons. First of all, let's be real with ourselves, right? That this has been a very difficult year. There's a lot going on in the world, there's a lot going on in the Jewish world, there's a lot going on, like just in our hearts. Like, there's so much that we're thinking about and dealing with and processing, right? And here's the thing: when we're dealing with anything difficult, traumatic, stressful, the number one cure, I don't know, use the word cure necessarily, but the thing we most need, that's the way I want to say it, the thing we most need in these situations is love and connection. The best medicine when we're feeling stressed or trauma or scared or overwhelmed is actually a hug from our husbands. It's to be held by someone we love. It's to be understood, to be able to share, to be held physically and emotionally. And when we don't have that, like I was saying before, the stress creates more stress. Exactly. So I'm saying, what if he's the one causing the stress? That makes it even more challenging, right? Because now not only are we feeling that stress, but the way to deal with that stress is actually create like it we feel like I need it. That's where, they call this like the attachment, issue, like attachments. I can't remember the exact phrase, but there's like this where on the one hand we need that connection, so we keep going towards it. On the other hand, it's that connection that's creating the stress. So then we kind of move away from it. But it's like so confusing and so stressful and so difficult for us to deal with. Like, it creates more stress in our bodies, which is going to have a worse effect on our relationship, right? It's going to cause even more struggles. And so it really is important to see, what can I do to create safety? What can I do to actually create that connection that I need so badly, whether it, especially if it's the stress is coming from our husbands, and even if the stress is coming from somewhere else, if we don't feel like we have that safe space to wrap ourselves in, then that's going to create more pain, more struggle, more stress. And so it becomes especially important for us to that's why it's so important to deal with these stressors. It's so important to figure out what these barriers are and do what we can to overcome them. It's also, as we said, we're coming into Elul. We're coming into the time where we really think about, how do I want to be my best self? How do I work on myself? And the reality is, for us to work on ourselves, for us to be our best selves, that's really like when we feel connection, when we feel loved, when we feel safe, that's what actually really allows us to bring out our best selves. Because the reality is that we are wired for connection. We are human beings. We are like survive in connection. So as much as yes, we want to talk about how to feel good within ourselves and not to feel like every time my husband's in a bad mood, I'm pulled down by him. I definitely, stress that a lot with my clients. It's also important to just be real with ourselves about the fact that when we don't feel loved and we don't feel connection, it has an effect on us. It has an effect on us. It pulls us down. It makes it harder for us to really be the woman we want to be when we don't feel loved and connected. And it's all about acknowledging that like relationships are important. Relationships are important, and especially marriage is important. It's important for us to be connected emotionally. It's important for us to be connected physically. All of it is important and not one over the other, both spiritually, physically, emotionally. It's so important to feel connection. It really makes a difference. And so, what generally, if you want to hear like the holistic approach that I take to these types of issues, I would really say that, and this is, I don't want to kind of like negate it or minimize it, but I would say that the basis of how we can create connection in these realities, all the challenges that we've been talking about since the beginning of this call, I find that it generally comes down to number one is what can happen is that we lose our own sense of self. And what I mean by that is not just that like we don't know who we are, but I mean like we lose our inner like essence. We lose like that woman we want to be. We become so stressed and so overwhelmed that we can shut down. We can lose ourselves. We're not even like we're just focused on our to-do list. Does this resonate with you? We become so focused on our to-do list, we become so focused on everybody else, keeping everyone happy, keeping everything calm, keeping everything together, trying to like dealing with all the stuff that's happening that we're not like that's becomes all we think about and what we're taking care of. And then it's like, wait, why am I just a stressed out, I'm just stressed all the time or I'm just overwhelmed and reactive and not responding the way we want to respond, maybe yelling more or fighting or just being like defensive or being very much a people pleaser is often coming because we're totally in that like taking care of everyone kind of place. And we're the the issue becomes that we're not able to like relax and step back into who we want to be, right? And like be that woman who can have connection, who can sit and talk with our husbands or with our kids, with anyone, like sit and actually connect with them and create relationship, right? The other thing that can really get in the way of our having any connection is that we feel so frustrated with our husbands, so much resentment, so much of a feeling of, what is um like, do I even want to talk to you? Do I even, I'm so angry about the things that you've done or the things that you've said, whether it's something you're saying now or something that you've said in the past. Like we said, that resentment, that feeling of, how could you, and that can create a real barrier to connection, right? And yes, feeling like he doesn't do anything, I'm the one that takes care of everything. And it can really cloud the way we see our husbands, which is definitely going to affect whether or not you want to connect with them, right? They talk about like, if you're not like the first thing we talked about, if you're, you know, not really if you're focused on like all your stress and everything you have to get done, then you kind of become like a porcupine, right? No one wants to get close to you because you're like poking everyone. But sometimes we may, also feel like it's not, I want to get close to my husband, but then like he's like a scary, like a scary monster, an ugly, like if you're looking at your husband as like this thing that's like, like disdain or frustration or like the thing causing all your stress, then how much do you really want to connect? Right. So you may be telling yourself, yeah, I should work on my marriage, but do you really want to work on your marriage with? with this man if, based on the way you're looking at him. So again, I'm not talking about negating the things you don't like about your husband, just like I'm not talking about negating your stress. And there is such power to seeing how can I still, with all the reality of everything that's going on, see my husband in a way that I want to connect with him, right? Then we also have this issue where, like, we are, even when we do go on a date, even when we do try to spend time together, even when I do try to have a conversation with him, it's not going the way I want. He's not saying the things I want him to say. I can't he's not listening to me. Like, this isn't I'm not enjoying myself. It's not fun. It's not connecting. It's like we can get so frustrated when we put the time in because it doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. And so the answer there is, again, looking to see how can we actually spend time together in a way that we enjoy. Right? What does that even look like? What does that feel like? Because, like I said before, we could have all these ideas about what a good date should look like, or what a good time in bed looks like, or what, a conversation should be like, that can actually be, like that porcupine again. It's like getting in the way of, like, even having those interactions, having those experiences, because it just feels like so, like, not it's not coming out the way you want it to. And really being able to get to a place, this is, another thing, like the third piece that's so important here, is learning how to actually enjoy your time together. Enjoy time together in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, on a date, on the couch, on the phone, whatever it is, being able to actually spend time together, even with the realities of what's going on, and even with the fact that you may not totally understand each other or be on the same page. What if you could have a conversation with your husband where the two of you are not seeing eye to eye? You don't actually look at an issue the same way, and yet you can come out of that conversation feeling connected with each other, right? What if you could still feel close to him, even if, it's not the exact experience that you thought feeling close to your husband should be? And then we have the issue that I was, talking about, how, like, we may have all these ideas about what sex should be like, what it should feel like, what it should look like, what our bodies should be able to do, what we should be in the mood for, right? And that is, why it's so important to understand, like, what are our unrealistic expectations? What are we, like, what is supposed to happen, so to speak? Like, how can we actually create even a sexual experience that we want in the reality of our lives, that we're tired and that we are stressed sometimes, and that, that, like, our bodies don't necessarily react exactly the way we want them to, or the fact that, there's all these, like, beliefs that are expectations that are really getting in the way. What about when it's a challenge? What about when you don't feel the way you want to feel? What about when your husband doesn't react the way you want him to react? So all of these, and then not just knowing how to do all of these things, but also realizing that as you're trying to implement any of these kinds of skills, knowing that there's going to be questions that are going to come up. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be like, yeah, but how do I apply that to my life? How does that work in my situation? And what about all the real life situations that come up and get in the way? And that's why I'm really excited to invite you to join me in a 4 week experience, right? I have this program that I developed back last January. It's, like I said, I was listening to it again, and it really addresses all of these issues. It may sound like how, but it really does, as it goes through module by module, the different issues that we just spoke about, right? Knowing how to deal with your own stress, knowing how to get back to finding that, like, who you are, and being able to relax, being able to be the woman you want to be, while also being able to see your husband as someone that you want to spend time with. And going back to the first thing, like, that you're someone that he wants to spend time with, right? It's also about being able to connect with each other. And I'm adding in, we'll talk about that this one will be recorded live, because I'm going to add in this module on also making sure that the sexual aspect of the relationship is really addressed. Because while I did address it in the original program, I want to make sure that I give you even more tools and even more clarity, and answer more questions. So not only will you, when you join now, not only will you be getting these pre-recorded 3 modules plus the fourth module, which we're going to record live together, plus other bonuses that I originally created and included in the program. But because I know that there's so many questions that come up when you try to apply these ideas, that there's so many, yeah, but what about me? And what about my situation? And how do I apply it when this is happening? And what about this thing that bothers me? And what about this issue that's always coming up for me? And what about the fact that my husband, or what about the fact that I, or my kids, or my situation, those are real. And so, what I'm also going to be including is 3 coaching calls for you, 3 live group Q&A calls. You can, give in your calls in advance, and every week you can give your questions in advance, and every week I'm going to be answering your questions so that you can make sure that you have clarity as to how to apply these ideas. Right? So this program is, like I said, I released it originally last January. Some of you may already have it. If you do, you may have joined it anytime over since then. If you do, you'll automatically get access to all of these coaching calls as well, and to module 4 when it's going to be recorded. And anyone who is on this call, right? I'm also going to give you the link I'm going to drop now to join also includes a coupon code. It's the same, to thank you all for showing up live, and for staying here with me, and being, so interested and dedicated to this product, to this idea, to this issue, and it's also the coupon code that you'll either have received or will receive as thanks for responding to the emails that I sent out asking you your biggest challenges. The idea is basically like this. There are so many things that can get in the way of connection. So many things. And like I said, as I was reading through this list, it's now over 150, but it was like 150 emails. And I actually personally responded to every single one. So if you received an email response, besides for when you got your ebook, if you got an email from me, I personally responded to every single email. I read every single one. I responded to every single email. And as I was going through the list, I just kept going like, yeah, yeah, that's a big issue. Or yeah, I get that. Yes, that really can create such challenges. Yeah, that really does make it so hard to connect with our husbands. Yeah, of course you don't want to get into bed when that's going on in your head. Of course you don't want to go on a date. Of course you're feeling resentful. Of course you're not sure if you want to connect with your husband. Of course you're questioning your whole marriage. Of course, of course, of course. But I'm also like nodding and being like, oh my gosh, I addressed it in the program. Oh my gosh, I addressed that in Absolutely Irresistible. Oh my goodness, I ans- I she's going to hear an answer to this question when she joins, and I just keep getting more and more excited. More and more excited. So that's the gist of and the idea in this program, the Absolutely Irresistible program. The idea is it originally started out last January. I just kept hearing from women things like, we're talking like a year and a half ago, I kept hearing from women like, I go to spend time with my husband and it's not even worth it. I'm too tired. We just end up fighting. And over the last year, what I hear even more from women is just there's so much heaviness. There's so much stress, whether it's because of what's going on in the world, whether it's because of just like even within ourselves, like within ourselves, like we're have so much heaviness and so much stress, and there's so much like stuff that we're dealing with, and instead of our marriage being a safe haven, our marriage starts to feel like it's another it just is, it's another struggle instead of the safe haven. And what's so powerful is to be able to understand when those challenges come up, when you feel disconnected, how to reconnect, what to look at that's like what's getting in the way, and what some of you were on here going, but how do I do this? I wish I could give it all over in like one 45-minute, session hour. And the truth is that there's that answer goes deeper. The answer is more, like I said, holistic. And so that's the power of this program. These are, every module is about 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes, over 60 minutes, around 90 minutes long. There's resources. Like I said, you're going to have these extra coaching calls. I'll drop the link again. It is really a powerful program because it really addresses so much of the, and sorry, this coupon code is a 10% off. You'll only see the coupon when you go, like if you go to checkout. So when you go, like it's already, when you click on this link, you'll already, and if you're listening to this by phone, so you can't get the link, send me an email with your phone number because I'll know if you were on the call. And I get a list afterwards and I'll be able to give you the coupon code as well if you didn't receive an email because you sent me an email. But I'm just excited for all of you because when we have these challenges, they really, like, it really does get in the way. And when we're stressed, it's like I can think of so many times, especially over the last year, where just, there was so much stuff going on and so much in my head and so much like heavy on my heart that it was so easy to feel so disconnected from my husband. Like, just like I don't, it's just easy. It's just easy to feel like you're disconnected. It's easy to feel like you're just too in your own stuff and too dealing with too much to be able to connect. And really, I use the same skills that I teach all of you, and so, reminding myself, "Wait, I know what I can do. I know how to reconnect," and seeing us use it in, like, real life to, like, in real time, reconnect even in the challenges, and it doesn't mean, and this is a big thing I talk about in the program, it doesn't mean that, in order to connect, we have to go and have, like, a light experience, like, ignore the real challenges that are going on in life. No, sometimes the times together are dealing with the challenges that are going on, right? And when you're able to, even with the challenges, connect with your husband, right? When you're able to have the real stuff that's going on in your life not be a barrier between you, but instead to be sitting next to each other, handling it together, right? Kind of either metaphorically or actually, it's game changing, right? It's game changing, and you get to, it gives you that strength to deal with whatever you have to deal with, right? It's so powerful. Someone sharing here, she's sharing with me privately, having used these skills and having learned, been a part of the program. Sometimes when I share what will make me comfortable, my husband says that is why he feels like he can't express himself and share what he needs. I say I shared calmly what I would prefer to create connection and not frustration. Yes, so it's that communication piece, right? Like sometimes, here's the thing, when we're all stressed, sorry, I didn't realize it was a question. When we're stressed, when there's stuff going on, and we can say to our husbands, you know, I this is what I need or this is what I want, and we can communicate with them and they can communicate back to us, I'm feeling stressed, or they can say this is what I want from you, and you can actually have a conversation about it instead of like going and sulking in your corners or not talking to each other. Actually, one of my favorite emails that I got, I don't know if she's on the call now, but one of my favorite emails that I got, if you are, you're welcome to say hi. One of my favorite emails that I got was from a woman who, not this program. She did my full out Absolutely Feminine program a few years ago, and which is just really just going much, much deeper and getting a much higher level of support in many of these skills. Like it's really, the Absolutely Irresistible program is really like a condensation of the Absolutely Feminine program in many ways. And this, we're talking a situation where like when they would get upset with each other, it was like they wouldn't talk for days. There was so much how do I say this properly? Like looking down on each other, condescension, frustration, resentment, non communication that was going on. And after learning these skills and practicing them and having support in them, which you'll have as well, she shared with me, she wrote back to that email. She's like, I just want to tell you that the only thing that's really frustrating right now is that I asked my husband to help me wash dishes for Shabbos, and he said no, like, for whatever reason, I don't know. But, like, she's like, that's what's crazy. That's what I could think of now as a barrier." Oh my gosh, like, that's huge, right? And of course, we all want our husbands to always help us, and this is a part of, like, sometimes our like we some work that we can do within ourselves to realize like, yes, I may want his help. I may need his help, and how to think about it when, there are times that he's not able to help. And to know like, is that like, oh my gosh, like that means that he doesn't love me and he doesn't care about me and we have the worst marriage, or is it like, oh, I'm also not able to do it right now, right? Or it's important for him to be able to say no, or let me understand what he's dealing with right now. Maybe he's also busy getting ready for Shabbos. I don't know what he's dealing with, right? Is there something else he could do? There's like, again, that's like where I was talking about, like our mindsets, like the way we think about it, the way we think about needing help, and I'm not denying that it's important for our husbands to help us, right? The more connected we feel with them, both in the bedroom and outside the bedroom, the more help we'll have, the more we can communicate with them, the more we can ask for help. So many women share things with me like, I struggle to express my needs. I struggle to tell my husband what I want. I struggle to, if I even tell him, to then feel good if he does it, right? And what if you could communicate more clearly? And all of those struggles, the four modules that I just shared, that and besides all the coaching calls and the practical advice that you'll get to hear as well, all like makes such a difference in every struggle. I'm speaking directly to you, right? If you sent an email or you can think for yourself, like the biggest challenge that you're having, there is these ideas, these tools, these four different modules, these four different approaches to dealing with challenges are like a holistic way to deal with really the struggle that you're having. I wish I could like get on a call with everyone and tell you like individually how it will make a difference for you. I hope that this call helped you see that for yourself. I hope that it, gave you some of that clarity. Like somebody wrote me like, "Why do you think this program will be good for me? Like, do you just send that to everyone?" I said, "No, I promise I don't just send it to everyone." And I did answer every email, and I said, like, I can't necessarily go into depth in every email, especially when you're responding to over 150 emails, thank God. But that's why I wanted to have this call and try to give that like holistic view, that understanding of like some of the challenges that we may have, and and to see that there are solutions, there are ways to handle it, right? Because so much of the challenges that we're having are when we have these spikes between us. We have these spikes. It's like, you don't want to get close to me. I don't want to get close to you. I don't know if I want to get close to this marriage. Like, we can feel so overwhelmed and so frustrated with the lack of connection, with the lack of communication, with who you are. And I don't even have any energy left for you. And do I even want to spend time with you? And what if, like, those spikes could like melt? Right? What if you wanted that connection? What if you knew how to create that connection? What if your husband stopped being a source of your stress and instead became a source of support, right? That's what I teach in this program, in the Absolutely Irresistible program. It's a powerful, powerful program. It's easy to consume. Like I said, it's 3 modules that will be dripped to you over the course of 3 weeks. As soon as you sign up, you get access to module 1. We'll have 3 Q&A coaching calls, which will start already this week. And then the 4th module will be recorded live. And you can submit your questions to be answered. And there's also questions that are answered at the end of every module. So like you'll see practically how to apply these ideas. I'm always going for the practical. It's always about like game changing skills, game changing results, things that will really, the crux of what will really make a difference. And I had to like really break it down because this was like a big undertaking, right? Like, how can we create connection between a husband and a wife, between a man and a woman who feel so disconnected from each other and are having all these feelings of like, I don't even know if I want to spend time with you, but I do want to spend time with you because that's why I'm here, right? And I really break it down into the fundamentals, into the foundations that you'll see make a difference for you, right? Like from module 1. I remember when I offered this back in January, back last a year and a half ago, a woman shared after the first week, she's like, "I am having conversations with my husband that I never thought I could have." And we hadn't even talked about communication yet. We had just talked about, you know, working on certain opening within herself, and it was already creating game changing differences. So I definitely, this has been a longer session than we usually have for Coffee and Connection. I'm going to drop the link one more time. You're all, you'll get it also in an email. You're definitely welcome to check it out. Like I said, this comes with the coupon code, which will only be applied in checkout. You don't see it right away. It's not that fancy. But what you'll also I'll say on the line now if anyone has any questions. I'm so happy to have, I hope that this call in and of itself made a difference. I hope it gave you some clarity as to like where, I hope also some hope, right? This feeling of like there are answers, there are solutions. And if you have, if there's any way that I can help you to to embody those solutions, to live them, to make shifts in your relationship, it is my honor and my privilege to be able to help you with that. So if anyone has any questions, you're definitely welcome to put them in the chat. And here we have someone's okay, yeah. This was just go ahead and drop them, and I'll give a second for anyone who wants to ask a question. Happy definitely to answer any questions that you have on anything that we talked about on today's session. Okay. If you shared one earlier, just copy and paste it so that I can answer it for you at this time. If you have any, I'm here. I'm happy to answer your questions. Let's hang out. Let's see what you want to chat about. Thank you. I always gain by coming on. I'm so happy to hear that. And I really, always want to do, really just be here for you and make sure that you are gaining, right? Again, it's never just about theory. You can know this about every Coffee and Connection, and you can know this definitely about any program that I, invite you to, is that it's not just going to be nice ideas, and it's not just going to be laundry lists of here's what you should do and here's what you shouldn't do. It's really like that understanding of really being able to understand relationships, understanding ourselves, understanding our husbands, understanding what's stopping us, what's getting in the way, and then having clarity as to like really what can you do about it in a way that like makes sense, right? In a way that is like gives you perspective and helps you to create exactly what it is that you want to create. Okay, so thank you. Okay, let me see where other questions came in. My chat started jumping again. Um, how many? One second. Why is it jumping? Okay. Yes, and I missed you last week. Thank you. I missed you all too. I realized I was like sitting at an eicha that was about to start, and somebody sent me a message like, "Is there a Coffee and Connection this week?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I totally should have sent an email because I had mentioned it the week before that I was going to be in Tisha B'av already, but I'm so honored to know that women like missed it and wanted it. Um, Unfortunately, I was already in Tisha B'av, so I couldn't get on a Coffee and Connection. And I am not a great faster, so there was no way I was going to do anything on Tisha B'av itself. I literally was lying down like the whole time. After Eicha, I spent the night kind of learning Eicha, and then the whole day I basically was reading a Holocaust book and trying to connect and not and stay awake, stay present, stay part of in Tisha B'av. So I hope you all had a meaningful Tisha B'av as well, and I definitely want to, I'm glad to reconnect with you this week. Okay, let's see. You said in the beginning we try to take classes and still feel like something is wrong. Why is your class different? Oh, that's such a good question. So basically, what I expressed is that because what's different is that it's a more I'm going to use that word again, even though I don't know if everyone means the word the way I'm using it, but more holistic. Meaning, sometimes women say to me, I just want to work on my sex life. I just want to work on what's going on in the bedroom. And the reality is, I just want to work on communication, right? And the reality is that in any situation, whether it's physical intimacy, whether it's communication, whether it's I want to feel appreciated, or I want my husband to help me more, or it's I want him to hear me, whatever the issue is, it's if I would just teach you how to do any of those one things on its own, it's not you're that's where you'll end up frustrated because if you're trying to work on your communication, I'll give you like a really classic example that comes up in my work all the time. If you're trying to work on your communication, but you don't really know what you want, and you don't and you're sitting in a place of resentment against your husband and like just upset at him and like judging everything that he says and does. And you're also judging yourself for what you want. So you don't even really know what you want. And like you are kind of going into like a conversation with both of those realities. It doesn't matter what I teach you about communication, it's what's going to come out of your mouth is going to be judgmental and perhaps confusing because you're not really expressing the truth. You're if you're struggling to be vulnerable, are you really expressing what you want, and are you actually hearing him, or are you being judgmental of him? Right? If we try to talk about how to have a better sex life, but you're angry at your husband, or you're like focused on the fact that there's something he didn't do today, or if you're so tired and exhausted and you haven't taken care of yourself and you're just thinking about all the things you have to do and you would maybe even rather do, it doesn't matter what I teach you about how to have an amazing experience and how to like enjoy yourself. Are you really going to be able to enjoy yourself, right? If we try to talk about how to um, connect together on a date and have a good time when you spend time together, but you're full of expectations, or you have all these like ideas about the way the date should look, how are you going to it doesn't matter what I tell you about, like, oh, go to, do this or go to that or talk about this, like there's all of those stories are going to affect you, right? And that's why it's important to understand that in all of these situations it's much more holistic. Everything going on inside the bedroom is affecting what's going on outside the bedroom, right? In the same way, if you're trying to have like you're trying to create partnership with your husband, but like your physical life is struggling, I am not saying, be with your husband when you don't want to so that he'll be more helpful. I'm not saying that. Please do not put words in my mouth. I'm not saying that. But let's be aware of the fact that it really is a holistic issue. Like everything affects each other. And the more connected we are with ourselves, and the more connected we are with our husbands, and the more we're dealing with all of these pieces of the puzzle. That's why people always say, like, why can't I just like have a one-on-one session? Or like, why don't you just like work with people individually? It's like because there's so many pieces to the puzzle, right? We got to deal with all the pieces as much as we can to create the shifts that we want to create. Okay. So thank you for that question. And I hope that that clarified for you the difference. Um, okay. What else? What other questions are here? How many modules do you have? So the program itself is now 3 modules, and then I'm adding in a 4th module. And it could be that over time I'll add in more modules. Once you purchase the program, you have it for life. So I forgot to say that before. You have it for life. So if you purchase it now, not only do you have the 3 modules of the original program, you'll also get the 4th module that we're going to record together in a few weeks. And then if I add any other modules or coaching calls or resources, which I probably will over the years, you'll also get access to that as well. Okay? So it's like both content rich but also consumable. Like it's not going to like take over hours and hours and hours of your time. You don't need to dedicate, hours or weeks or years, like it's consumable, but also gives you a lot of content. Every module has a resource that goes along with it, and those, yeah, like there's so much there, and also, like I said, consumable. Okay. Do you specifically address the drinking? I'm gonna paraphrase out the drinking, or they're not going to shul, or the way he talks to the kids. Like, let's add all of this in. He's not an alcoholic. He handles it very well. It's nuances that I notice, and it's most difficult for me on the weekends. So, yes, what I handle in the program is how to deal with the things about our husbands that we don't like. Especially when you're talking about something that bothers you, but you're saying it's not like he's an alcoholic, right? Although sometimes we can see our husbands taking a few drinks and being like, oh, he's an alcoholic, right? And if there's really those issues, right? If he really is an alcoholic, then, even still, there's a question of how do we look at this issue? How do we deal with it? I'm not talking about denying. So that's the thing. Sometimes we'll talk about like denying the things we don't like about our husbands, or pretending they don't happen, or just saying it's not my business. But the reality is that it does affect you. And it's real, right? So I'm not going to so that's why it's very important to figure out, like, how do we deal with the fact that we do see things about our husbands that we don't like, that become those like porcupine spikes that, like, I don't even know if I want to get close to you because you're drinking, or you don't go to school, or you yelled at the kids, or you're not making enough money, or you're always on your phone, or you don't work, or that you don't help me, or that you're too involved and you're telling me what to do all the time. Whatever that is, how do we deal with those issues? And that I do very much specifically address. And if you have specific questions about it, you can also, if you want to go even deeper into it, that's what you'll be able to submit questions. And then on the coaching calls, I can go even deeper into the topics that are most like what's getting in your way. Okay. So you have the ability, whoever joins this cohort is going to like also get to like personalize it even more for yourself. Okay. Okay. Um, Let's see, what else? It is me that I can't start, i.e., kissing or touching, because I grew up Orthodox. So I am so frustrated my husband doesn't start, even though we talked about it so many times. Oh my goodness, there's so much here. This is so important. This is addressed already in the modules, but that's also why I'm adding another module to make sure that all of these are addressed. First of all, noticing like what gets in the way because of my upbringing. What do I believe that stops me from being able to enjoy or initiate? And then how do we deal with it when our husbands aren't initiating, or our husbands aren't doing what we've asked them to do so many times? So many important things. How can we like deal with all of these, right? So what if you could be in a place where both you are okay to initiate, right? And also know how to communicate with your husband to invite him to initiate, and also be okay with when he's not initiating, right? Like there's so many layers to this, and I invite you to really, you know, like have clarity that all of this is addressed, all of this will be addressed, and it really is game changing when we can work through these different kinds of barriers. Okay. So definitely, uh, definitely important. Definitely will be addressed in the program. Okay, thanks for another thought. What if my marriage is really great? We do communicate and generally very good. Is it helpful to take this class, or will it bring to my attention things that I might have not seen before? I think that if anything, if like there's it's not going to like I could say like this. I highly doubt that this program is going to cause you to see more negatives in your husband, or to create less connection. This, I'll tell you, like again, the skills that I talk about in these modules are ones that like we can keep delving into to create even more and more connection. So whether you don't even know the last time you and your husband went on a date, right? That you spent time together, that you spoke to each other, or whether you go on a date every week and you talk every night, right? Either way, what you're going to learn in this program, and like relearn perhaps, or like get clarity on, right? What's going to like is only going to allow you to make those experiences even more connecting. And here's the thing, like I was saying, there's always going to be things that are coming up for us that might get in the way. So you may generally, like you said, have a great relationship with your husband. And then there's going to be times that you're going to be stressed about something, or there's going to be something your husband does that you don't like. This is just realities of life, ladies. Like, I promise this is not a program of like everything is always like, let's make everything la di da and beautiful and we never feel stressed and we love I'm going to teach you how to love everything about your husband, and I'm going to teach you how to like, because it's just not reality, right? The reality is that life is stressful. The reality is that there are things that we don't love. Like, we can love our husbands and not love everything about them. And maybe you're even struggling to love your husband. So the question is how to, as these things come up, and there are barriers, to be able to overcome the barriers, to be able to deal with the barriers so that it doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship with your husband. It doesn't mean that you can't feel connected to him. It doesn't matter, if when these things come up, it doesn't mean that now your relationship is on hold, or, I guess we'll have to like, like we just have to either like pretend to enjoy, whether it's spending time together or we're talking about, our physical relationship. I don't like, it's not about pretending. It's not about shutting down. It's not about giving in. It's not about, doing it for the sake of the relationship. It's not about, feeling resentment about it or shutting it off. It's about like, how can we, as this challenge comes up, connect with each other, like deal with the issue so we can still connect with each other, right? And like allow ourselves to connect in spite of it, allow to ourselves connect because of it, if anything, right? Okay, so blind spots will be more clear since like that previous person have Baruch Hashem a good marriage. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's the power of programs. I really believe this is the power of my programs, is that it helps you identify your blind spots. So whether you're like, and this goes back to that question of like, I take all the classes, I read all the books, or it's like, I try everything and my marriage is just stuck in a not good place, or it's in a good place, but I can't figure out why I still get frustrated, or I can't figure out why sometimes he doesn't seem to want to connect with me, or I can't figure out how to get it to a higher place. The power of a program is that it gives you access to your blind spots. Because remember, we cannot see what we cannot see. You can't see something in your blind spot. It doesn't matter how hard you try. You can't see it. I actually just had a really funny thing happen today where I was out shopping with my daughter and we wanted to get a dress that she has in another color, but we didn't know what size she had it in. So I called my husband and I said, "Can you?" Actually, I said, "Call Abba, tell him where your dress is." She didn't know exactly where it was. I'm like, "See if he could find it for you." So she calls him and she's trying, it's here, here. He goes, "I can't find it. I'm sure you're going to come home and tell me, it's right here." So we get home and we're looking, and it was like right on the top of the laundry pile, like exactly where we said it was going to be. So I bring my husband over and I'm like, "Look," like we're like laughing. I'm like, "Look, it's the green dress and it's right there." And he goes, "Green? What are you talking about? That's a purple dress." So I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about my husband and the purple couches. My husband is colorblind. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, her dress is the same color as our purple or green couches that we had when we lived in Beersheba." There's a whole story about that. So it doesn't matter how much I tell him, "Ellie, do you see the green dress? Ellie, this dress is green. This is green." He sees purple and he can't try harder, right? That's what he sees. When something is in our blind spot, it's in our blind. It doesn't matter how hard we try to see it. It doesn't matter how, like how much we talk about the problem. It doesn't matter how many classes we go to. If we're not aware of what the issue is, and we're not aware that we have that issue, we can't fix it. We can't see it, right? So I'm glad that this is resonating with many of you. So that's the power of like, yes, modules. That's the power of group coaching. That's the power of like seeing a holistic understanding of the situation and hearing other women's questions and hearing ideas that you may be like, "Yeah, but no, that's not my issue. I just wanna talk about sex. Why are we talking about like relaxation, or why are we talking about like how you look at your husband? Like, I just want to figure out how to actually enjoy myself." I promise it's all connected. And if you're like, "No, I don't want to talk about sex. I just want to talk about how to actually works together with my husband," it's all connected. And so by looking at the whole picture and tuning into every module and coming to the coaching calls, you're going to get this clarity and this like, "Oh, that's what we're waiting for." That like, "Oh, this is what's in the way." Which when we just try to deal with like our challenges head on, we don't always get that clarity. Sometimes even if it's not in our blind spot and we know what the issue is, like if you sent me, you're one of 150, or now like one of 200 women who sent me your challenge, and you know what your challenge is, and maybe you know what the challenge is, but it may be too difficult or too painful or too scary to deal with that issue straight on. So when we deal with it holistically, when we deal with all the pieces of the puzzle, and you hear the coaching I give to other women as well, that actually can allow you to actually overcome the issue in a way that's not scary, in a way that is exciting, right? In a way where it's like going to get the shot and you're freaking out, and then they give it to you and you didn't even realize that you got it, right? Like, that's the power of these coaching programs. That's why I believe in them so I'm so dedicated. Like, that's what I do, right? Because I know that it really makes a difference. Will the coaching calls be recorded if I can't do live? Definitely. Everything is recorded. The coaching calls will also be recorded, and they will live in the portal. That's a new function that if at any other time when I release it, that all the recordings of the coaching calls will also be added in, and everything will be done in a very like sanua, like private way, so that you can ask questions and the recordings can be shared, and you won't have to worry about like, but other people will see it forever. Like, you'll send in your questions, I'll answer it. If I need further clarification on your question, I'll ask you beforehand so that I can really address the specific issues that are coming up for women in a way that it's still safe for it to be recorded, and then everyone gets the benefit of the group coaching. And like I said, you'll then have lifetime access to not only these modules and these coaching calls, but anything that's added in. So if I see that there's another module that is needed, I'll add that in. You'll get access to that whenever that is. If I do another round of Absolutely Irresistible and there's more coaching calls, you'll have access to that as well, right? So you buy once and you enjoy forever, right? Bezrat Hashem. Okay. Um, if somebody wants to speak to me directly, or saying, "How can I speak to you directly if I have a question?" Um, I can add in as a bonus that if you join the Absolutely Irresistible program, then for that, let's say for the month after you join, you'll have access to me the way that the Women in the Absolutely Feminine program do, which is that you'll have the ability to book a coaching call. It is for an additional charge, but that's only something that I offer to my clients. So for that month, I can send you the link, and you'll have the ability to book a direct coaching call with me, and on at a time that works well for you and me, right? You'll have my direct calendar link, and you'll be able to book a coaching call, which, like I say, I only offer to my clients. So you'll have the ability to book that call. So there we go, an extra bonus that was just added in. Thank you to iPad for adding in this bonus. Any other questions? Let me see if there's anything that I missed, and if you still have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. um, okay, let me just see if there's anything I missed. Um, oh, it's jumping, so I can't go back. Oh, why did it do that? There wasn't even a new message. Okay. Um, let's see. We talked about if he's the one causing the stress. I take care of everything. I want him to take care of me, but he feels like he's also taking care of everything because we do so much together. This is such an important point. Thank you for sharing this. Um, we all want to feel taken care of, right? You want to feel taken care of. He wants to feel taken care of. You know, there's the power of allowing our, like, being taken care of and knowing how to invite him to take care of you, and what might be getting in the way of that. And then there's also being able to feel that togetherness. So powerful when we can actually feel like partners. And that doesn't mean you don't still get to feel taken care of, right? You get to be taken care of and at the same time to be partners and work together. So powerful when we can do both, definitely. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Are you planning an in-person retreat? One day, hopefully very, very soon. Thank you. That is in the cards. Actually, if anyone is interested in an in-person retreat, you can go ahead and send me an email so I can know that you are interested and get the ball rolling even faster. Right now, there's just like a lot going on in terms of when I think of leaving the country. But it is definitely something that is in the works. So let me know if that's something that really interests you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions before we sign off on anything that we spoke about? Happy to just give a moment for anyone to ask a question. And if not, then I hope to see you all inside the Absolutely Irresistible program. We will have our first coaching call this week on Thursday. So definitely looking forward to you hearing the first module, starting to incorporate it, ask any questions that you have. You don't have to ask questions just on module one. You can ask any questions that you have. And also to connecting with you further. So thank you again for all of you being here and thank you for all your thank yous. How is this program different to AFP? I don't know what AFP is. I apologize. I can't tell you how it's different from something else. Even if I did know, unless I really am very clear on what it is. Oh, the Absolutely Feminine program. Oh, that's such a great question. Okay, so how is it different? Well, it's more condensed, right? So basically, what I did is I took it's the same ideas and the same skills. It's the same type of tools, but it's much more condensed. So rather than giving it to you in 12 modules, I gave as much as I can in the 4 modules. It's much more condensed. How to like quickly create more connection. We don't get to go as deep as we go in the Absolutely Feminine program. Also, instead of having a weekly coaching call for a year, instead we have 3 coaching calls. But I will say that first of all, anyone who's in the Absolutely Feminine program and is trying to decide if they want to also join the Absolutely Irresistible program, what you'll get is kind of like sometimes we have the whole system you're working through it, especially if you're in the process of working through the system. You may feel like, yeah, but I want to create connection now. So it's kind of like a jump start. It really is like a jump start to specifically like really connecting with each other. The Absolutely Feminine program is a little broader and like let's make sure we're really, you know, like working through triggers and understanding ourselves and getting in tune with our feelings and really like deeply into empathy and versus judgment, and then like we're building a lot of building blocks which are very, very important. The Absolutely Irresistible program is going to give you like kind of like the jump start, right? Literally like the most condensed version. And it can be very, very powerful whether you're in the Absolutely Feminine program and you want to kind of jump like speed up your practical results, and kind of see, even if you're like, you want to already know how like the whole system works together. um, and if you're considering joining the Absolutely Feminine program, it's definitely going to give you a very like holistic, it's going to give you clarity. You'll see like if the Absolutely Irresistible program is working for you, is making a difference, you'll have like such insight as to whether or not the Absolutely Feminine program will be even more helpful for you, right? Because you'll get more of a sense of my style, how it's different being in a program than being on, let's say, Coffee and Connection or With All Your Heart, like the free resources that I give. what's different when you're in a program, and you'll see what the coaching calls are like. You'll see, like, you'll just get more of an understanding, and it'll, and again, when you join Absolutely Feminine and you'll already have like this jump start that you did in Absolutely Irresistible, it'll be even clearer to you like why to dedicate yourself to it, and you'll also already be living the results, which makes it just more inspiring to do, continue in the work. Asking for the link again. Sure, here is the special link with your coupon code. Will I be posting the link in the apps? One second. Now it's jumping all over me. Hold on a second. I still cannot figure out why Zoom does this. My kids needed for a second. I didn't hear if you said the coaching calls will be recorded. Yes, coaching calls, everything will be recorded and housed, housed for you in the portal. You'll have lifetime access to all of it. Can you resend one second? Will you be posting link in the Absolutely Feminine group? Who wrote that? I will. Oh, yeah. And if you have been were a client of mine last year, you probably have access to it already. So yes, you'll continue to get access to it, and you'll be able to join the coaching calls and like I said, module 4 as well. Okay. Let me see if I do it. No, oh my gosh, it's so hard. Okay. I don't know why it's jumping. Okay, so yes, I resent it. Um, do, do, do. Okay. I think, thank you for everything. You're so welcome. And is that everything? I think that's everything. So if you have any other questions, go ahead. You can send me an email. Again, pleasure to share this all with you. Excited to see you inside the Absolutely Irresistible program. And we'll have our first coaching call on Thursday, please God. And until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now, everyone.